Coming up, was whipped past the sharks, Patton's fire is out, whilst other dragons fire a one-pointer. Yes, hello and welcome back to the Sideline Chat podcast, your one-stop shop for rugby. Just like ended this week, as Colin Marcellus tried to convince the producers to backdate his current suspension to the start of next year, but he failed to do so. That's why he's absent this week. Now, finals and playoffs week one are done and dusted in the NRL and the Super League. Uh, but as we didn't get to do the final round of the NRL, start of the NRL first, as we didn't get to go through the results and debrief the games from round 25, let's quickly run through them now so we get the picture for what finals week one would look like. So the Eagles beat Melbourne Storm 22 points to 14. The Bulldogs beat the Manly Sea, it was 21-20. The Roosters got over the Rabbitohs 26-16. The Titans got over the Warriors in a golden point thriller 27-26. The Dragons got over the Broncos 22-12. The Cowboys beat the reserve grade Panthers side 38-8. And the Sharks beat the Knights 38-16, while the Raiders absolutely thumped the Tigers 56-10. That's the picture for round 25 of the NRL, which led to finals wrap up for all the finals of the Panthers against the Eels, the Storm against the Raiders, the Sharks against the Cowboys, and the Rabbits. Roosters against the Rabbits. As per always, I'll go through this week's team lists, and then we'll reflect back onto finals week number one. So team lists for week number 2, we have got the Eels up against the Raiders. Start off with the Green Machine first. Adam Elliott is out due to a pelvic injury, so his spot is taken by Corey Harry-Lamar, as Ryan Sutton joined the bench from his hand surgery, with Albert Hoffweiler 18th minute again. Now, as for the Parramatta side, Mitch Moses is going to be monitored. He has been named, but he'll be monitored due to a head knock last week, and let's hope he plays there. And other than that, Arthur has named the same. So they went down to the rivals of Panthers, the Baylor Thompson and Bryce Cartwright amongst those there with Nathan Brown, the 18th man. So straight off the blocks, we go with the Western Sydney derby between the Penrith Panthers and the Parramatta Eels, with the Panthers coming out on top 27 points to 8. In the end, the Panthers are just too good once, well, really, with Nathan Cleary in the bulk of the, well, let's just say the first choice 13 was all back out there, and they were just way too good. Yet they got the field goal up half time to lead 7 points to 6, which seems a bit of an odd score one, but I mean, all points count when mattered, of course, especially in the finals match, and you don't know what the hell's going to happen. It's very unpredictable indeed. But then the Eagles struck back with a penalty goal early on in the second half to the lead 8-7, and that's where it all went downhill from there on in, with the Panthers absolutely destroying their local rivals there. Standout player from Connor was Nathan Cleary with 121 running metres, 2 try assists, 3 tackle breaks, 1 line break, 2 offloads, a 1-point field goal, and 5 from 5 goals converted. Yeah, he was back, and it looked like he hadn't missed any games. That's how well he played, Nathan Cleary. The way he set up Dylan Edwards' try, which uh, was just unbelievable. It was on tackle 3 or 4. It was early on in the set. Put a nice double kick through on the to the in goal, and Dylan Edwards read the play very well when and scored. his try there. How it was constructed though was next level. Right? Then uh, risk not scoring a try from an early rubber kick in, but Panthers and Nathan Cleary and that they all knew what was going to happen. With, but what also helped that try was that Nathan Cleary went to dummy the pass to go out to his left, but then tried to double kick through Butterson off guard as he went to go the other way, but then he had to quickly scramble across, but still wasn't quite enough there for to try and stop Dylan Edwards' try there. It was a sold out game, and the atmosphere was absolutely brilliant. So, before the game, with the passing of Queen Elizabeth II, all finals matches had a moment of silence, and I reckon out of all four finals games in the NRL, the Panthers Eels was the absolutely best one out of all of them. Not if someone dropped a pin, you would have heard it. They showed a shot of the crowd with like the most. They showed a shot with the crowd, and you could hear the camera going against like the vest or shirt of the cameraman. So you don't hear that very often at all. That's how dead quiet it was. And it was an absolute crack. Well, at the start off with it was an absolute cracker of a game, but then Panthers just absolutely dominated. Brighton Toto, he scored two tries of his own. They did look relatively easy in the end. I think so, but he still had to work for it though. It was about 15, 20 metres back for both of them. And with his speed and athletic ability, it was just unreal. He managed to get the ball down, but in the end, the Panthers were just way too strong at Parramatta, who just fell apart in the second half. But they were still lucky to be in the contest at the break, but they were just nowhere to be seen. I don't know what happened to him. I think once Mitch Moses went off with his HIA, that shows that Parramatta do miss him when he's not playing, especially in a big match like that. And their key matchup would have been Nathan Cleary up against Mitch Moses there. But the question has to be asked, is this the beginning of the end for Parramatta's 2022 finals campaign? Well, we'll have to wait and see with this matchup against the Green Machine. Now, speaking of the Green Machine, they beat the Melbourne Storm in the first of the Saturday games and the first of the elimination finals matches. They beat the Melbourne Storm 28 points to 20 in Melbourne. So the positive record in Melbourne continues on down there. It's not often that you get to see the Storm beat Melbourne in the regular season, let alone in the finals, and add salt to the wound, knocked out of the finals. They're gone. No more Melbourne Storm for the rest of the season. You don't see that very often at all. The Storm, they did well to come back in the back end of the game, but in the end, it wasn't quite enough for them to get the win. Credit to the Raiders, though. They not only from knocking off the Storm, but they were basically on the verge of missing the top 8 a few weeks ago, and now they're made in the top 8 going to week 2. It's just unbelievable. They were on a very strong run indeed, which is what you need going through the finals. Definitely a lot of momentum. And they were just a better side on the day, really. Ricky Stewart's got them absolutely singing along, or humming along nicely, I should say, down there at the moment. Standout player for Connor was Joe Tarkin with 216 running metres, 1 try assist, 6 tackle breaks, and 3 offloads. He is in absolutely fine form at the moment. Alongside Josh Papali'i and Hudson Young as well. So big, a decent full tack. They're coming along nicely at the right end of the year. Can they carry this through? Only time will tell. So back to this one with the Eels against the Raiders. Connor has gone with the Eels to win this one in a 1-6 margin. It's final time is always hard to predict who's going to win. You just don't know what you think one team will, but then the other team will come out and upset them, or kind of like what the Storm Raiders game was. You knew Melbourne were going to do well in the finals, but you had that sneaky suspicion that the Raiders might have done well as well, which is what ended up happening in the end. For this one, I'm going to go with the Canberra Raiders to win this one by 6 points. It's going to be an absolute cracker of a game there at Combank Stadium. It's not sold out as of yet, but I believe it will be sold out in the not too distant future. For the second and final game, these are all elimination finals, by the way. Well, semi-finals, but whoever loses is knocked out. We go to the Sharks playing hosts to the Rabbitohs at Allianz Stadium. So the third time in a row that we're going to see the Rabbitohs playing away at Allianz Stadium. And the first one in round 25 against the Roosters. Then last week in the finals against the Roosters again. And now this time against the Sharks. So unbelievable there. I don't think I've ever seen that happen before, or if it's ever happened in the history of the game. Team list news: Rabbitohs for Rabbitohs first. Tom Burgess is out with 2-game ban, so the only time he can play again is if South Sydney makes a grand final. We never know what's going to happen, so I personally don't think they will, but you just never know. His spot is taken by Michael Cheatham in the only change. He played Carter and Jackson Cora amongst the reserves of David Mole, 18th man. As for the Sharkies, same 17, yet again, that one that went down in a 93-minute thriller. Balfour Newton was charged with a crusher tackle, but he is free to play after copping a fine. Lachlan Miller is the 18th man with Braden Trindle and Aidan Tolman amongst the reserves. Should anything dramatic happen, they are there ready to rock and roll. Well, we just spoke about the first two games, like one eliminator, one qualifier, one preliminary, one to be 80 minutes away from the grand final. Let's go with the Sharks Cowboys. The Cowboys beating the Sharks 32 points to 30 in what I just said at 93 in that thriller. So with the finals, it's 80 minutes, and then usually it goes to golden point. But with the finals, I have extra time, 5 minutes each way. Then it's just golden point from then on in. And my word, how they did not anyone score a field goal, try, whatever, any sort of points in the extra time, I do not know. With extra time, also, say the Sharks scored, the Cowboys still have time to score again to level up or to win it. So basically, whoever scored in the extra time would have won it at the end. They still would have done the 5 minutes each other regardless. It's not like golden point. As soon as you get points, that's it. So it's a little bit different customer response because you have to have a winner. So compared to normal season, regular season, you don't. Also, you'd still like to see a winner, but some games end up in the draw, which is not very common nowadays. But it is what it is. Sometimes, I just can't get over this game. It was unbelievably close, intense. I had literally everything out. I didn't have any send-offs. It's just a fair contest, and it's just come down to who the better side was. And Valentine Holmes with his got a 2-point field goal at the end, which sends the Cowboys through to a home preliminary final, so they get the week off this week, so they play next week. But unbelievable. The only thing being, I should say, was Connor Tracy from the Sharks. Other than that, clean sales all around, so which is unbelievable to see. Our standout player was from North Queensland Cowboys, was Jason Tolomola with 1 try, 271 metres, 8 tackle breaks, 1 line break, 21 hit-ups. He's unbelievable. You don't see, well, you do see a lot of hit-ups sometimes, but not 21. And Jason Tolomola absolutely delivered. His try coming in the 79th minute. With Valentine Holmes slotting over the conversion to send it into extra time. So it comes down to the absolute death of regular time there to send it into extra time. Otherwise, the Sharks had it locked up. It was try for try there. It was unpredictable. So the Sharks scored, Cowboys scored first with Tom Gilbert in the 7th, then Rudolph in the 10th, and Dearden in the 28th. Sorry, then Talakai in 24th, Dearden in the 28th, Hiku on the 30th, Kennedy on the 35th, then Tuilagi on the 52nd, McGuinness on the 56th, and then with Kennedy again in the 66th before Talamaro on the 79th minute. So it was really try for try. There's only a couple of times there where one team scored back-to-back tries. This is mind-boggling. I did the ratings of the moment of silence for the, as I said, for the passing of Queen. The Panthers Eagles one was the best one. The Storm Raiders wasn't as good. There was a bit of noise going on. But so that was ranked third best, I think anyway. The Cowboys Sharks game, it was absolutely phenomenal, but not as good as the Panthers Eagles ones. You could have dropped a pin and heard it at the Sharks Cowboys as well, but I still think that there was just something about it that didn't make it quite as good as the Panthers is, but I can't wait to finger on it. But that was an absolute crack of a game, that one, and one of the best games I have seen in a long, long time, whether it's finals or not. And the final game for week 1 of the NRL was the Roosters versus the Rabbitohs. Just touching back on the moment of silence things again, this was the worst one out of all of them. There was noise, there was more noise than all of them. There was people you could hear at Allianz Stadium making noise, and it's just ridiculous. So, not good enough from that one, but I thought that was a really ranked one. But this game, the Rabbitohs end up beating the Roosters 30 points to 14. So now the Roosters are officially knocked out. So you don't. And I read somewhere it's first time in over a decade, I believe, that we don't see the Roosters or Storm in the get knocked out in week 1. We have not seen that in over a decade. That is unbelievable record there. But this one had a record of 7 sin bins. Yeah, you don't hear that often. 6 was the previous record, now the record is 7. 4 from the Bunnies and 3 from the Roosters. Roosters culprit to Victor Radley twice and the Jaguar Hargraves. By the Bunnies was Tom Burgess, Tano Mill twice, and Junior Totola once. It's hard to keep up what was going on. A heap of head-high tackles that Ashley Collins thought were dangerous, so in the bin they went. Bailey's was the first one on the 4th minute, followed by Burgess in the 18th, Tane Milne in the 19th, Joe Hargraves in the 50th, Totola and Bailey again in the 60th minute, with Tane Milne in the 65th minute. So there's 2 occasions that the Bunnies were down to 11 men compared to Roosters where they had 12 on 13 or 12 on 11 at one stage. But the ironic thing is that the Rabbitohs still managed to score with 11 players on the field. That is unbelievable record there. Latrell Mitchell going over in the 22nd minute when I had Burgess and Tane Milne off. With and no, they didn't score when they had Tola and Milne off. But that was unbelievable. How you can score with 11 players on the field is just mind-boggling. You don't see that happen often. You see the teams that have the advantage score obviously with the team with the 1 man advantage. But this one with 2 men down was I still can't get over it. It's unbelievable. Alex Johnston try scoring weapon again outweighs now up to 30 tries this season alone. I think that's a record within itself as well. First in the 5th minute and then out of 46 in the corners. He's broken records. I think he's going to go on and break the all-time record of most tries scored in the career. Whether I don't think it's going to be next year, it might be the following year if he stays fit and healthy for all of 2023, and depending on how many scores in this matchup against the Sharks, and if they go through to week 3 in the grand final, like, the more he scores, the better off, and the closer he's going to be to making probably a record that we'll never see broken again. We never thought we were going to get this close to it. But the way he's going, he could potentially break it. We just have to wait and see. And the only time will tell for that one there. The standout was Cody Walker with 64 running metres, 4 tries, 3 line break assists, and 20 tackles. He pretty much controlled this match from 5'8". Latrell Mitchell did have a part in it as well, but it was more Cody Walker steering the ship around. And my word, it paid off. Some of the tries he set up was just unbelievable. So that's that matchup there. So back up to the Sharks Rabbitohs game. Connor has gone to with the Sharks. So win this one in the 1-6 margin. I have gone with I can't remember who I think I went with the Sharks. Yes, I went with the Sharks to win this one. I'm going to say 7-12. In the 7-12 margin. They've got 8 points. I've just got the feeling the Sharks, yes, they are coming off the off, but they'll be more determined to win it than what South would be, I think. But with Rabbits missing some troops due to suspensions, and that be a little bit tricky there. So Sharks got a pair of us, and we've gone down the middle 50-50 with the Eels Raiders game. Now, to the NRLW, we're up to round 4 was just played on the weekend with a triple header at Amy Park between the Titans, Eels and the Broncos Dragons before the Roosters Knights game was played at Allianz Stadium. But we'll go back to round 3 and just quickly go through the scorelines there. The Roosters absolutely destroying the Dragons 34-6. The Broncos also destroying the Titans 22-4. And the Knights just getting the edge over the Parramatta Eels 18-16. So we go on to this week where we have got the Broncos coming up against the Eels. So the Eels, this one is played at sorry, it's triple header on the Central Coast, so on the Central Coast Stadium there in Gosford. I'll go for the Eels unchanged lineup that got the win last week. Kennedy Charrington copying a $400 fine for a dangerous contact on Lauren. Dangerous contact, I should say, on Lauren Brown. And it's for the play. Kelly Tufa received a warning for contact on Karina Brown and is available. Charrington also last week was promoted to the starting lineup and could potentially do the same this week. As for the Broncos, Emily Bassett tends to the win with Shakia Tungai moving to the reserves. Jada Ferguson is subbing at dummy half. with Lavina Good coming to a calf injury with Amy Turner now new player on the bench, while Chelsea Renadusi and Aneta Nuwasala are both free to play, despite one having a high shot and one who takes a tackle, but they only get off with warnings. For the sides last week, the Eels went down to the Gold Coast Titans 18 points to 6. 18 points to 16. It was a very tight contest. It looked like the Titans had it all, pretty much all but sealed early on that match, but the time that Eels came back at them and came back at them hard, they certainly did there. But in the end, just fell short. I think what cost Parramatta game was their defence early on, which allowed Gold Coast to pile on all the points early. It was going to be a hard task for the Eels to come back at the Gold Coast Titans, but they nearly pulled it off. But making it a grandstand finish is always a brilliant thing to see. Titans, they, like I said, had it pretty much sealed early on, but back in they got a little bit too close to their comfort, I think, for them. They were starting to get a bit nervous, but they still a little bit more errors and a little bit more penalties and all that. Like that, they held in there, thankfully. Steph Hancock's try, how easy did that look? But well, she's hard to stop straight from the line, close to the try line anyway. But she just like reached out and went point, like plonked the ball down. Fairly straightforward. So a lot of the Titans tries look to be straightforward and quite they need a goalpost as well. So that really helped with the goalkeeping as well. So I think they'll a clean record of 3 from 3. So the easier the conversions, the better off and the more chance you're going to get the points that you need for the win, which is what happened here with the Titans. The standout player from Connor is Georgia Hay with 80 run moves, 2 try assists, 2 tackle breaks, 1 line break, and 5 hiccups. So unbelievable performance there from Georgia Hay. Now for the Eels opposition this week, the Brisbane Broncos, they went down to the Dragons 19 points to 18. So the Dragons get the victory there. In what was a first for the NRLW, the first ever golden point match. And what better way to do it with two teams being in it from the beginning to be in it. So just all around how it happened and they all deserve for both of them. For the Brisbane Broncos, I don't know what it was, but it felt like something wasn't quite right with it. I just can't lay a finger on what it is. But they obviously managed to send it into golden point thanks to Ali Bridenshaw by the death in the conversions. And she did have a shot at field goal and Reggie like just uh, sprayed it out wide a bit. But I just don't know where it kind of went wrong for the Broncos. But what turned the game on its head was when Jamie Chapman scored that long range try for the Brisbane Broncos, which effectively put them back into this contest. Looked like the Dragons had it sealed up, but when Jamie Chapman got on that ball and got that long range try, that's when things started to turn. And that's when the Broncos looked like they were playing what they generally do and play well. But it's just that early on period, just like, yes, they did score first and felt like, but just something didn't seem quite right. But it didn't bother them in the end. Yes, they'll be disappointed with the golden point loss, but the way that they played and managed to come back to lock up scores, they shouldn't be disappointed about that indeed. For the Dragons, Golden Point, well, Rachel Pearson should take it out. She stepped it up, slopped it over the 1 point field goal, and won it after what it seemed to be a dominant performance from the Dragons, especially in that middle period of the game where the Broncos didn't seem to be playing like how they usually do. Maybe the Dragons were, maybe the Dragons got under the skin a little bit and was frustrating the Broncos a little bit, which forced the Broncos to have those little bit more errors, which allowed the Dragons to capitalise and get in front. Um, I don't know. That could be the reason. None of my idea. After looking really good early on, they were looking untouchable. But like I said, with Jamie Chapman getting that try to do the comeback, that didn't quite help them at all, the Dragons, but they still got there in the end. And then the Golden Point, yeah, it looked like that Pearson had plenty of time to slide over the field goal. I think only one or two Broncos defenders came running at her, but by the time they got to her, it was too late. She'd already kicked it, and it was on the way over the posts. So, so back to this Broncos Eels matchup. I mean, the Eels played how they did against the Titans. We never know what's going to happen there. That's so two narrow losses for these two sides are going to be to see who comes out on top. I think the Broncos will come in getting there and win this one by 4 points. It's a matter of how, and if it's going to be penalties or whatever or trying it, we just don't know what's going to happen. Actually, I think the game of the winner this one, I believe. The next game for the triple header on the Central Coast, we have got the Gold Coast Titans up against the Sydney Roosters. For the away side, being the Roosters, there's been a few changes with the competition leaders, with their minor premiership pretty much all but sealed for them yet again. Jada Taylor will make her debut at number one with Sam Bremner rested. Another debutante in the name of Shaden Rose is the Central Coast Roosters. Teammate to Jada Taylor. So she's in the back line with Jasmine Strange dropping to the reserves. Jamie Fressard is back on the win after a leg infection, with Liani Tufuka also rested this week. Sarah Tokatuki and Shania Power return to the forward pack with another debutante, Angelina Tekara. Get this right. Angelina Tikaramga Katoa added to the pack. I apologize if I got that name incorrectly. And as for the Titans, same squad that did beat the Eels last week, with Palette remaining at fullback and Aki Mitchell staying in the bench. So I've touched on the Titans narrow win over the Eels. Now I'm going to touch on the Roosters narrow win over the Newcastle Knights, 18 points to 16. It was a game of close contests. I mean, the Roosters Knights game was 2 points different, same as the Titans Eels, and exactly the same score one, believe it or not. And the Dragons having a 1 point win over the Broncos. So I think the average points score per match this one was 18 points. I wonder what makes me say that. The Roosters did start off well and finished well, but in between finishing off well and starting well, they were off the pace a little bit, which allowed Newcastle to come at them and to they did lead at one stage. They did lead, yes, Newcastle did lead. And it looked like the Knights going to knock off the premiers, but Zahara Tamara sliding over the conversion, the game-winning conversion after Isabel Kelly picking up a loose ball off the ground and going long range to score underneath the sticks, which it shows that if you make an error and Isabel Kelly's around and pretty much shut the gate. Not always, but more often than we shut the gate that she's going to score. But Roosters were just pretty much all themselves. Besides that middle period where I think they were off the pace a little bit, but hey, that's what happens sometimes. And Newcastle, they seem to, as I said, in the middle of the game, they seem to be dominant, and they held with got into that's what they held until the dying minute when Isabel Kelly scored. We talked it up with Zahara Kamara sliding over the conversion. Newcastle will be disappointed with the result, but have played and performed, they should be very happy with that heading into the final week of the regular season and before the finals, which they are pretty much set in stone of making in their second ever season. One thing I have to point out, and a standout performance for Connor on the Roosters was Isabel Kelly, one try assist, 251 line meters, 8 tackle breaks, 1 line back with 4 offloads. And I've got to mention the Dragons stand out for out of the Broncos Dragons Castle Casey Apps 1 try, 166 line meters, 9 tackle breaks, and 1 line break. So heading into this final match, two teams, the Dragons and the Knights, will be very much looking to out whoever wins, I think, goes to second or stays in second. Not 100% sure on that one, but I think that's what the case is here. Connor has said the Dragons will win this one on 26. I have to agree with him. I'm going to say Dragons win this one by 2 points. As much as I'd like to see the Knights win, you've got to back your own team. And that team for me being the Dragons. So that's NRLW week 4 all over and done with. So round 5 is among us. Something different instead of doing 2 parts because it's only a few games this coming into the close at the back of the season. I'm going to also mention the Betfred Super League. Now I'll go back to the matches from the final round of the season. As I've previously mentioned, like the NRL didn't get to do the debrief last week. So round number 27, all done and dusted. The final results being Huddersfield Giants beating Wakefield Trinity 16 points to 14. Wigan Warriors absolutely smashing Catlin Dragons 48 points to 4. St Helens beating Toulouse 36 points to 16. Warrington beating Salford 32 points to 14. Rhinos beating Custard 14 points to 8. Holkar getting up over the crosstown rivals 36-4. And that was it. So that was the results of the regular season there. So the 2 holes miss out, Carlsbad miss out, Warrington miss out, Toulouse out and back to the championship next year, and Wakefield also missing out in the playoffs. So that meant that in the final ladder, that St Helens and Wigan got the week off. So Huddersfield played Salford, which was 3rd versus 6th, and Captains played Leeds, which is 4th versus 5th. If Castleford won that one, Salford would have been in 5th. As Leeds won, it was the competition points that one better that Leeds had on 29 compared to Salford on 28. So St Helens, Wigan, Huddersfield, Catlins, Leeds, Salford, Castleford, or Salford was in 6th, and the one that missed out with Castleford in 7th, Holkar 8th, Hull was 9th, Wakefield not finishing in 10th, Warrington 11th, and Toulouse in 12th. So we'll go to week number 1 of the playoffs for these 2 sides, and we have got some absolute blockbuster games coming up here. We could see a Wigan St Helens grand final. We could see a Wigan Salford grand final. We could see a Leeds St Helens grand final, Leeds Salford grand final. don't know what we're going to get until literally the last game, which will be St. Helens up against Salford. I'm just going to quickly try and see. We do have team lists. I'm not quite sure there. Just bring up now, but we have got some absolute crackers coming on here for this. What is the final? Literally 80 minutes away from making the grand final. That's what this is. Do we have squads? No, we don't have squads at all, unfortunately. That sucks a little bit. So can I go on to see what but what we will touch on is the results from the weekend, and that is the Catlin Dragons going down to the Leeds Rhinos 20 points to 10. So, Catlin's form. So both French sides, one back to relegation, one getting relegated, one gone from the Super League playoffs after making the grand final last year. Catlin should be very, very disappointed about that indeed. Uh, but Leeds somehow just scraping in, managed to play exceptionally well. Now, before the first points got on the board, it was 27 minutes into this match before Catlin got a penalty goal by Sam Thompson, and then not too much later, another penalty got a Sam Thompson. So Catlin had the early 4-0 lead before the Leeds Rhinos on 33 and a half minutes in got the first try of the match. And pretty much from the Rhinos scoring the first try, they absolutely went on with it, took complete control of the match. Nothing never looked too hard for him. It's just, I think the defense of Catlin just didn't live up to expectations, although in saying that, Mitchell Pearce got 2 yellow cards, one early on and then one late in the match. And then Gil Dudson got a red card, so that played a big part. Once Gil Dudson got that red card, it's been all over for Catlin as they'll obviously be able to play up for the remainder of the match. But nothing seemed to go right for Catlin, so I think they made too many errors wrong, and the red and double yellow cards didn't help their cause in front of their home crowd. So for the Rhinos, so I've never seen the collective gear, and the result showed how well they played. Credit to them though, for just sneaking into the playoffs after getting the win over Castleford. Now they have to go on to play the match up against the Wigan Warriors. I think you think it's going to be an easy win for Wigan, but after having a week off, that will help Wigan as well by having more prep time, one less week of injuries to be worried about, but also having a week off could hurt them too after carrying their momentum pretty much all season long. Having a week off could halt that momentum, but Connor has gone. Oh, sorry, with Catlin Leeds standout player. He's gone with me Sutcliffe for 3 tries, 162, 1 metre, 7 tackle breaks, and 1 line break. Had a crack of a game there. He was pretty much involved in nearly everything in Sutcliffe. Definitely one that the Leeds Rhinos felt like it looked like he led the way, and his team actually just got on board, and that's what got them over Catlin in the end. But back to this Wigan Leeds match. I quite has gone Wigan to win this one 7-12. Uh, I I'd like to see the Leeds Rhinos make it through to the grand final, because then like the ways that Saturday they were written off by Connor and myself and probably a lot of other people, but they somehow got there in the end. But I don't think they'll have that quite enough power to get there in the end. So I think But Wigan being as so strong as they've been all year long, they'll be definitely be hard to beat for this one here. I did tip the Leeds Rhinos just for the upset. I think the Leeds Rhinos are on this one, win this one at 1-6. But it's going to be an absolute battle by the game. Edge of your seat stuff. The crowd will be, if Leeds win this one, the Wigan crowd will be absolutely silenced, which we don't hear that very often. See what pans out, really. And finally, it's Connor versus myself. St. Helens versus Salford. But before I get into much detail of how I think that game will shine up, I have to go back to week one where Huddersfield got absolutely nilled by Salford, who's got 28 points. So Salford 28 points to nil victors over Huddersfield Giants to book a place in week two of the finals. Huddersfield, they went into hiding. Nothing went away, but in saying that, well, they're never in the contest. But to be fair, they have barely any ball possession, which having less ball possession means you can't really show what you're capable of. But when they did have ball possession and that penalty given to them, they didn't do much with it anyway. But I think overall, Huddersfield will be very disappointed with that. I think the quiet achievers and the dark horse in the top four, let alone top six, by finishing third, they were definitely a dark horse this season, but finishing third is a stellar effort for them. But the way that they ended their season ended, by getting nilled in week one, that's just not good enough. So they'll be disappointed with that. As for Salford, after losing to Warrington in week one of the regular season, they came back absolutely flying and firing and progressed to week two and now 18 minutes away from the grand final. Uh, Not being biased, well, you think it might be unbiased, but they do deserve to be there. That Connor had them finishing, I think, in 12th and getting relegated. So he is completely wrong with that. I'm completely wrong too. I can finish in ninth, and they end up finishing sixth in the league to the playoffs. So I'm pretty stoked about that, to be quite honest. Um, and they showed why they deserve to be in playoffs. It's the only two chinks in that Red Devils armour was Ryan Briley getting a yellow card, who then went on to score the try that pretty much all, well, looked like they'll be going through the playoffs even at half time when they're up 16-0 at half time. But when he scored that try, pretty much all but confirmed that they were through to week two. And Brody Croft failing his head injury assessment at half time, so not coming back out in the second half, but it didn't seem to bother them at all. It didn't cost them any points. In fact, they got more points. And the way that Salford were making movements upfield was so easy. I think the defence was poor. Uh, Ackers going through the line quite easily, and even finding the Callum Watkins scoring a try untouched after a line break there. Speaking of Salford, it was Andy Ackers that got the standout performance there from Cotton with one try, 177 running meters, three tackle breaks, and two line breaks. The way that Salford play as well, it shows that if they're wrong, they're wrong, and that's why we make playoffs. But Huddersfield, I think, Salford got underneath their skin, and I think once one thing went against Huddersfield, they kind of just collapsed. I think that's what I think ended up happening there. Cool. Then So back to St Helens versus Salford. Connor has gone to St Helens to win this on 1-6. Of course, he is being a St Helens fan. He is. I would love to see Salford make the grand final. If we can knock off St Helens, I'll be gobsmacked for the week to the grand final. I'll be pinching myself if we can make that grand final. But it's going to be a very, very hard task to come up against the reigning champs and the 2022 League Leaders Shield winners. But if they get Brody Croft back, that he's been an absolute, what would you say, a really good signing for Salford. I quite like that signing when they announced it. I thought that he was going to play well, being in the system that he was over here in the NRL, in the Melbourne Storm system. And going over there, they seem to kickstart their careers again over in the Super League, or that's from our perspective here in Australia. I think Salford, I can't seem to find the result at the moment, but I think Salford can become close to beating St Helens early on in the year. Without beating them. But this is finals. The intensity goes up. The physicality goes up the match. One error could cost you the game. It's just that unpredictable there. But I'm gonna have to stick with Salford. I've made it this far. Why turn your back on them now when I've made it this far into the season and playoffs? I'm gonna say Salford win this one for 6. So I think it's gonna be a Wigan St Helens grand final. I think it's gonna be a Leeds Salford grand final. I think the only reason why I went with Leeds is that if Salford do make the grand final, it's still gonna be a tough game, but it will be a bit of an easier opponent to beat than what Wigan will be. That's what I think. But yeah, no, but I do think that Leeds could make it, and Salford, I'm going to back them all the way. And that is our wrap up on this week's episode of the Sideline Chat podcast. If you like what you hear, click the subscribe button, ring the bell to get notified when this episode and future episodes get released, and like this video. Socials is Twitter at Sideline Chat RO, with Instagram and Facebook at Sideline Chat. Enjoy week 2 of finals across Australia and England, and we are in for some absolute nail biting games right here. Enjoy your footy. Hopefully, Connor's back next week after failing to overturn his 2-week suspension from the start of next year. He should be back next week. Enjoy your footy and finals. I hope your team wins. Although insane, if Connor's not back next week, well, if Connor's back next week, I might not be, depending on the result of the St Helens Salford clash, because I think it could get a bit heated between Connor and I, depending on how close the match is. In saying that, I'm signing out. Catch you all next week.